Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about a corporate mega-merger, a deal that was supposed to change the world, but instead, well, it accidentally blew the lid off one of the biggest lies in financial history.
So how does a deal for $129 billion just fail? And not only fail, but accidentally uncover the biggest fraud in American history. This is a story about crazy ambition, a high-stakes deal, and a secret that was basically holding a corporate giant together with duct tape. Okay, let's dive into this.
So our story, it doesn't start on Wall Street. Nope. It starts in a coffee shop in Mississippi back in '83. And it starts with a guy named Bernie Ebbers, a former coach who sketched out a business plan on a napkin that would eventually make him famous as the telecom cowboy.
Ebbers had this one strategy, and man, it was aggressive. Just buy everything. His company, which became WorldCom, didn't just try to compete with other companies, it ate them. He went on this insane shopping spree, buying over 60 rivals, and turned this tiny company into an absolute Wall Street darling.
And investors? Oh, they absolutely loved it. I mean, check this out. If you put $100 into WorldCom in 1989, just 7 years later, you'd have over $1,500. That's just insane. The kind of returns that made giants like AT&T and Sprint look like they were standing still. In the middle of the 90s tech boom, Bernie Ebbers looked like a king.
So fast forward to 1999. The dot-com bubble is at its absolute peak, and Ebbers decides it's time for his biggest play yet. On October 5th, WorldCom drops a bombshell. They're merging with their rival, Sprint. The price tag? A mind-blowing $129 billion. It was the largest merger in history.
Now, this wasn't just about getting bigger. This was a direct shot at the king. AT&T had been number one forever. This deal was designed to smash together the number 2 and number 3 players to create a new company so massive it would finally knock AT&T off the throne.
The plan was to create a total behemoth. They'd dominate the old-school long-distance calls and have this iron grip on the new big thing, the internet. But, when you try to get that powerful, that fast, people start paying attention, and alarm bells started going off all over the world.
And that's exactly what happened. The U.S. Department of Justice starts looking into it, and, maybe even more importantly, so does the European Commission. They started digging through all the details, and they all honed in on one specific, massive problem.
Okay, so this chart right here, this is the whole problem in a nutshell. If this deal went through, one single company would control more than half, 53% of the internet's backbone. Think of the backbone like the giant freeways that all our data travels on. This new company would basically own most of the freeways and the on-ramps. Regulators were, well, terrified. This guy, Mario Monti, who is Europe's top competition watchdog, basically said there was no way they could let this happen. They were afraid this new super company could jack up prices for everyone, choke out any competition, and pretty much become the sole gatekeeper of the internet.
So for the next 9 months, it's just this mad scramble. They try everything to save the deal. They even offer to sell off Sprint's entire internet business just to make the regulators happy. But it wasn't enough. The regulators just weren't buying it.
And that was it. July 13th, 2000. The deal is officially dead. To the outside world, it looked like a huge business failure, a real black eye. But behind the scenes, this was the exact moment the first domino fell.
Because see, the death of this deal didn't just kill an opportunity. It lit the fuse on a ticking time bomb. There was a massive lie holding WorldCom together, and now the clock was running out.
With their big growth plan in shambles and the whole dot-com bubble bursting all around them, WorldCom's stock, which had seemed unstoppable, just starts to plummet. The magic was completely gone.
But here's the real question. Why was a falling stock price so personally catastrophic for the CEO, Bernie Ebbers? This is where things get really interesting.
And here's the dirty little secret. Turns out Bernie Ebbers had borrowed, get this, over $400 million from his own company. He used that money to buy ranches, yachts, timberland, you name it. And the collateral for all those loans? His shares of WorldCom stock.
So when the stock price started to crash, he started getting what's called a margin call. Basically, the bank calls you up and says, hey, the stuff you used as a guarantee isn't worth as much anymore. You need to give us more money right now. He was on the hook for hundreds of millions, and if he couldn't pay, he'd be totally ruined.
And that pressure, that immense pressure to keep the stock price up at all costs, had already pushed him and his executives down a very, very dark path. They'd been cooking the books for years. The failed merger just meant the lid was about to blow off the whole thing.
And the crazy part is, the people who finally found the fraud weren't from the SEC or some fancy Wall Street firm. It was an internal audit team led by a woman named Cynthia Cooper. They were literally told by senior executives to back off, but they kept digging, often at night, in secret, risking their entire careers to find the truth.
So how'd they do it? It was actually two pretty simple tricks. First, they just hid their expenses. Imagine taking your normal monthly bills and calling them a long-term investment. That's what they did, to the tune of billions. Second, they just made up revenue, literally invented it out of thin air. It created this perfect illusion of a healthy, growing company.
When it was all said and done, the team had uncovered an $11 billion fraud. That's billion with a B. At the time, it was the biggest accounting scam in US history, even bigger than Enron.
And the collapse was fast, and it was brutal. WorldCom filed for the largest bankruptcy in US history. 30,000 people lost their jobs, investors lost everything. The telecom cowboy, Bernie Ebbers, got 25 years in federal prison. The whole thing was so massive, it actually led to Congress passing the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which completely changed the rules for big corporations.
So just think about that. An empire built on a lie, all to keep a stock price artificially high. And it was a failed business deal, stopped by regulators in Europe and the US, that accidentally pulled the one thread that made the whole thing unravel. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What secrets might be hiding in plain sight today?